Hi, this is Ruth Theresa with One Inspiring Woman, and today I'm answering a Dear Ruth Theresa question. So the question is, Dear Ruth Theresa, do you hear ghost, see ghost, or feel ghost? That's a great question because actually I do all of them. I hear ghost, I see ghost, and I feel ghost. And it really depends on my psychic abilities. So if you have the same psychic abilities I do, you're going to feel them or see them or hear them in the same order. But not everybody has the same gifts in the same strengths. So that kind of really tells you where you are. I am a very highly clairsensitive, so I usually feel the ghost first. I will sense when they get close to me, usually pretty far out, like half a mile or so. I can feel them out. I can kind of like, oh, okay, we got a new one coming in, and I will feel that ghost energy. I will kind of connect with it, kind of like, okay, where are you going or why are you coming around? That's just part of it. So I kind of get a feel for their energy. I may even then have a conversation with them of hearing them of like, why are you choosing to come and be with me at this time? Is it for a client? Is it for a video? Is it for something else? It's the way it goes. So a lot of times, like, I'm connecting with their feelings first and connecting with that, and then kind of getting a feel for like who they were in life, that sort of thing. And then it'll go into hearing them and kind of like, I often tell them, like, if you're coming in for a client, don't tell me everything ahead of time. I want it to be fresh in my mind when I'm talking to your person, the client. I want it to be fresh in my mind and not hearing it for the second or third or fourth time. Now, if there's questions or things that they want me to know that doesn't have anything to do with what they're going to be asked during the reading, they may come in and tell me like a childhood story. They may come and tell me like, where they were born at. They might tell me if they were in war, kind of what happened, or if this happened or that happened. They will tell me that sort of thing because they know they're really not going to be asked that during the reading. And they come in with some great stories. If you haven't ever seen any of my ghost stories, I have lots of ghosts in my house, and they will come in with some amazing stories and some amazing messages that are just kind of in general. And I'll ask them if, may I video you and put your message out there? And sometimes they're like, you want to video me? Okay, that sounds cool. And so they love that part. They love to kind of get their message out. So if you've never seen any of my ghost stories, make sure that you do that. I will attach a couple of them to the bottom of this so you can kind of get a couple of my ghost stories. I have ghosts come in from all different ages and groups and areas and all kinds of stuff. So that's kind of the fun part. I will say that hearing a ghost story is kind of one of the coolest things that I think I do in a day. I love to hear their stories, and when I hear their stories, I actually see through their eyes what they're talking about. So I had a ghost not too long ago that was born in the late 1800s, and he grew up on a dairy farm. And so his job was to go out and milk the cows in the morning. And this was before automation, so he had to go out there and literally milk the cows. And so he would do that, and it was kind of interesting to kind of see his perspective of waking up really early in the morning and milking the cows, his parents, the energy of that. He had an older brother and a younger brother, so kind of like he was right in the middle. Kind of how they worked together and how they communicated with each other and how they did stuff. So that was the really cool part. And then it was kind of interesting to kind of hear his side of how his life was. And he was too young for World War I, but he went to go fight in World War II. And so that was also interesting. Like, where he was. He was mainly stationed in Paris or around Paris. He was a liaison for somebody, and so that was really interesting, kind of like the people he met and the people he talked to, and that sort of thing. So it was kind of like, oh my gosh, that's really cool. He got to meet like Queen Elizabeth, and he got to meet like Winston Churchill and deal with all these people. And so I was like, oh my gosh, are they, kind of like, this is kind of cool. I love this part. And so kind of getting to see it through his eyes. And stories kind of as his kids were born and raised and grandchildren and all that kind of stuff, and things that he went to go do and things that he felt like he had to do in his life, and that sort of thing. So kind of really the interesting part of it. But the last thing I ever do for a ghost is actually see them. Usually I don't ever see them. It's kind of the quirky part. Clairvoyant is not my strongest gift, but I can see them. I just don't see them as much as everybody else. I know people that can see them from tip of their head to the tip of their toes every time, not a problem. And it's not that I can't. I just one of those, I have to really calm my energy down to do that. I prefer kind of hearing them more than anything else, or kind of feeling their energy. That's kind of the fun part for me. But I do love seeing the ghosts because they'll show me images of how they felt in different clothing or how they felt in their life. That's kind of interesting because clothing has changed over the generations, and how they felt about things. Kind of what was really cool at one point isn't cool anymore, and that sort of thing. So kind of that's the interesting part for me. Kind of I get to see it, and kind of getting to see what their life was like. Kind of like what was war like, what was meeting their wife like, what was meeting their spouse like, what was meeting their whatever it is. Like that's the cool part for me. That's the fun part. So I really enjoy that part of connecting with them. So let's do some angel cards and get us some more information of do you hear, see, or feel ghost? See what that pulls up for us. Celebration. I love, literally love hearing ghost stories from them. I love hearing from ghosts and hearing about their life and how they thought and how they felt about things. Completely my absolute favorite. Archangel Michael. I will call in Archangel Michael whenever necessary. If I have a really heavy energy come in with a ghost, there are people that have had not really good lives, and sometimes their energy can be a little bit heavy. So I will call in Archangel Michael to keep my energy protected. So I do definitely make sure that my energy is protected as much as it possibly can. Answered prayers. To me, this is the fun part of life. I love, and I ask prayers all the time of, send me more ghosts. I love to hear their ghost stories. I love to connect to them. I love to hear about their life. That's the really cool part, because it's not like I saw it in a movie. I'm seeing it through their eyes. That's cool. Forgiveness. I will say that that is the feeling that I feel most of the time when I connect with a ghost, is kind of some of their regrets of kind of like, I could have, should have done this differently. I could have, should have done that differently. Or I shouldn't have said this to my wife. I shouldn't have said that to my husband. I should have said this to my daughter. I should have said this to my husband. And almost like, I hope they forgive me. I hope they forgive me for what I've done or how I've done things. And I will say 9 times out of 10, they really didn't do anything. It's just they said something that they didn't realize would hurt their feelings. It's not like they were a bad person. They just said something that hurt their feeling, and they realized it later on, and they're like, I knew I couldn't take it back. Very few times do ghosts come in with forgiveness for other things, but I will have some of them come through and tell me that they wish they were forgiven for like committing suicide. That's like the number one thing that I'll hear the forgiveness on, is that they'll come in and say, that they'll say, I wish I hadn't done this, or I wish I'd have dealt with this differently at the time. Manifestation. Anytime that you're dealing with a ghost, anytime you're working with a ghost energy, it is a manifestation. It really does take energy to do it. It takes energy to connect to them. It takes energy to disconnect from them. It takes energy. Nonetheless, it takes the energy. And I love connecting with them. I love hearing their stories. And to me, that's kind of manifestation of, I get to kind of learn other people's life lessons in a different way than I normally would. I get to learn a life lesson of, I wish I'd done this differently so I can make those new choices. I may not always make the good choices, but I always try to make the good choices. So that's kind of the fun part about connecting to ghosts, is kind of hearing it from someone else. Like, if you could leave a message for your younger self, what would you say? You know, if you could go back in 20 years ago and go back and change something, or tell yourself something to modify it or change it or upgrade it, what would you do? How would you do that? And that's why I kind of think about ghosts, is they get to come to me and their family members and kind of like change things and modify things and look at things completely different than they did in life. And I get the opportunity to kind of learn a life lesson in a different way than I normally would, and their family gets to hear that forgiveness, or please forgive me for this, and they get to give that gratitude or forgiveness back to their loved ones. I thank you so much for joining me today, and I know that we'll be talking again soon.